Well, good evening and welcome to Under the Sun. I'm your host Suraj, and we've got a brand new segment coming to you live on the channel. It's Monday Under the Sun. We're keeping it very simple. It is as it says. We're going to recap what happened over the week, or even when you look at the summer this time, we've got a lot of talking points coming to you live. It's just to shoot some breeze, have a little bit of a football chat, and see where we are as the Premier League season is a week away. And talking about the Premier League season, the perfect way to segue into that is the curtain raiser before the season starts, and that was Arsenal versus Manchester City. A lot of change, a lot of turnover for Manchester City, both with management and with players. For Arsenal, it's steady, a few clever additions, and Arsenal looked the part, man. They played some tremendous football. The way that they kept it, the shape that they utilized, and of course, the efficiency going forward, scoring 3 goals without response is a proper statement game. Look, the Community Shield is not about the trophy or the victory. It's about laying one over your opponent, especially when it's one of the teams that is going to be competing for the Premier League title, right? So you want to lay that early marker on them, not like the Liverpool versus Crystal Palace game last season where we saw Crystal Palace beat Liverpool, but then we did see Liverpool's season just absolutely nosedive. Are we going to see that with Manchester City? That is going to be a huge, huge question because, look, City, for the first time in a long, long time, look lost out there. Yes, they're playing the best the country has to offer in Arsenal, and the way that Arsenal have strengthened their side, despite having some key players missing, especially with Declan Rice in the centre, with a bit of a rest, who came on in the second half, and of course William Saliba was possibly going to miss 3 to 5 months of action because of a back injury. So regardless of all that, the way that Arsenal played, you have to tip your hat off, and they looked the part, they looked the business. And when that happens early on in the season, it just feels inevitable, almost just that's the word, man. Inevitable that Arsenal are going to go the distance once again. They've had to wait 22 years before they got their hands on it. They might go back to back. So let's dive straight into the game here. In terms of the formation, we saw Enzo Maresca, as he has done with Chelsea. Look, on paper, it looks like a 4-2-3-1, but in possession and maybe even out of it, it is a 3-2-4-1. He's got the back three of Josko Guardiola on the left-hand side, Ruben Diaz in the center, and Abdulkadir Kusanov as the right-sided centre half. Nico O'Reilly, who plays as a left back, inverts into midfield. He gives company to Mateo Kovacic, who is at lone number 6, and he allows his 2 number 10s in Elliot Anderson and Phil Foden to try and be that creative force. We didn't see Elliot Anderson in the middle. We saw him more in those right-hand side half spaces where he was trying to whip in those crosses for Erling Haaland. That did not work too much, but that central issue for Enzo Maresca is going to be a key, but because we're not going to be seeing the likes of Foden and Shirky both start. I mean, it could happen, but I see Enzo Maresca being a lot more conservative in that department, because at Chelsea, we did see the likes of Malo Gusto and Marc Cucurella even operating in those high off half spaces in those forward lines. So it'll be very interesting to see whether or not he's stubborn and goes with that, or he tries to play through City's strengths, because one of City's strengths is their 2 wide players, right? They don't have too much depth in that department, but Semenyo and Doku are 2 serious wingers. Now at Chelsea, again, I keep drawing these parallels because I see these parallels between the 2 squads. We had like Pedro Neto trying to hold the width on the right hand side. This time he's using almost Semenyo and Doku as wing backs. Look, they don't have to really track back, but they are playing high and wide on the pitch. They get a lot of touches, but it's in non-threatening areas. So it's almost like the winger's job to just drag the ball forward, try and create some central overloads to try and free up Erling Haaland, who had a very, very poor game. Haaland had just 1 shot, which is straight at Raya. It was a sharp save, but then I thought the service that was given to Erling Haaland was very, very poor, and that cannot be the case considering he's your main man and he's been getting the golden boot every time he stepped onto the Premier League season. 27 goals, 8 assists. To not have him involved in those central areas and score goals is absolutely criminal. So lesser wide play and a lot more in the center to get your main man involved. So from Enzo Maresca's point of view, he did have issues because the gaps were emerging. Arsenal was so comfortable. Yes, it does help when you score in the very first minute. Ricardo Calafiore being found with a brilliant Miles Lewis-Kelly through pass, a little feint to get past Phil Foden and then just slip it through for Ricardo Calafiore, who finished like a striker, brilliantly finished. And the number of problems that Calafiore was giving Manchester City in that first half was fantastic to see. He was operating again in those inside half spaces, not as a fullback. He was playing in those central areas. Arsenal didn't know where to go because Kai Havertz was dropping in and Calafiore was making those runs with Christos Zolis holding the width on that left-hand side. So great rotations from Arsenal's point of view. Look, the main news was at centre half, William Saliba is not fit, right? So Christian Mosquera comes in alongside Gabriel Magalhaes. We've seen that partnership a bit last season, but we're going to see a lot more of it if Arsenal don't dip into the window and get the likes of either Jarell Kwanzaa or Ezri Konsa from Aston Villa, right? So that's the key battle, whether or not Arsenal keep their powder dry in that department and wait for Saliba, which they actually should, because any centre half comes in, it's almost like you're playing a waiting game, right? You just have to wait. Because once Saliba comes in, you're going to be holding the bench. That's for sure. So that's the tricky situation. So Mosquera and Saliba, and Gabriel rather, were the two centre halves. He had Ben White and Calafiori on either side. When they have Calafiori and Ben White as their two fullbacks, Arsenal play better football. That's just a fact. I mean, Urian Timber is excellent. So is Piero Hincapié, but in different departments. But if you want to play out the back, if you want players to drive forward, we saw the overlaps being made by Ben White on that right-hand side too. It's a nightmare proposition and key for Arsenal to keep those two fit as the season goes on. He's got rotational pieces, so there's no real excuse for Mikel Arteta to blame injuries this time because Arsenal's side is loaded. They are loaded to the gills. Left wing is the only spot you look at Arsenal and say they're slightly short there, but other than that, they are juiced to the gills. Brilliant to see them show a bit of ambition and get Bruno Guimaraes, who started right in the heart of midfield, and he was superb, man. He was playing there like he's always been at Arsenal. No need to settle in. He was having touches, spreading the ball around. Great legs. He's getting apart up and down the pitch. And then you saw in the second half, he came on. Declan Rice comes in and looks even more solid. And when those two are going to start in midfield together, it's going to be a real problem for teams around the Premier League and even in Europe. So that was the midfield of Miles Lewis-Kelly and Bruno Guimaraes. Lewis-Kelly, of course, subject to transfer speculation after his clubmate, that is Ethan Wanieri, was signaled that he is surplus to requirements. So Miles Lewis-Kelly start now. Whether or not his long-term future lies in midfield, it's more likely often than not, but he's not going to get too much game time considering Rice and Guimaraes as those two pivot players. Martin Odegaard was the number 10. On the right-hand side, they started with Noni Madueke. On the left-hand side was the Greek international Christos Zolis. 40 goals and assists in the Belgium league for Club Brugge, and Kai Havertz leading the line. And Arsenal just got that perfect start. Calafiori scores and then Arsenal can just settle in. They can sit back if they want to, but they didn't. They kept going after Manchester City. They saw the weaknesses and they exploited it really, really well. Full credit to them, and they fully deserved that second goal as well. It was just a period where Manchester City was starting to grow into the game, but once Kai Havertz nods in from close range after Christos Zolis's knockdown header back across the face of goal, Havertz scores. It's 2-0 and you pretty much game over. In the first half, you saw Martin Odegaard just run the show for Arsenal. I've been one of his most vocal critics, right? Because he's got so much talent and ability, but you see some aspects of his games and it kind of just, you're like, he needs to do more. He has to do a bit more, but yesterday against Manchester City, he was first class. The dictation, the way that he was moving the ball around, the constant way that because of his positioning, Arsenal's formation remained fluid. So it was brilliant to see Odegaard at full clip, and then Havertz, of course, causing a nightmare for the two centre halves. Hey, what's up, Karan? Welcome to the stream, brother. City were absolutely toothless, man, and it was a cause of concern, right? Look, so yesterday I was watching the game and I was thinking, oh, the midfield, that midfield looks problematic because there's no Bernardo Silva. There wasn't Rodri because, of course, he just came back from the World Cup. But then a few hours later, Manchester City were dealt with that hammer blow. 70 million euros for Rodri in this current market is an absolute steal for Barcelona. My word, Barcelona's midfield already so beefed up with the likes of Pedri, Gavi, Frankie de Jong, Bernal. Now you add someone like Rodri to it, and you're looking at a serious midfield, whichever combination Hansi Flick uses. So Manchester City will have to invest in midfield. We saw that Ayub Buadi was linked, and it looks like now he's going to be on his way from Lille to Manchester City. Look, Buadi is a class player. We've seen him at Lille. We saw him in the World Cup for Morocco. Good player. He does not have that physicality despite having an IQ through the roof, and his passing selection, everything, class. City have some good players, but they look like in midfield, they will struggle. And if City don't grab hold of midfields, think about every Pep Guardiola side, right? It's always been about that midfield. Grab a hold of the game, give the opposition no chance, and then we'll get the goal and finish the game off. Now for Manchester City, if Elliot Anderson is going to be operating as one of those number 10s from midfield, City have a problem in midfield. So we might see the likes of Nico Gonzalez playing a huge part, because, look, he is not Rodri. No one is, because the drop-off from Rodri to anyone else is huge. But Nico Gonzalez has been at the club now for 18 months. He has got to step up. So him playing in that number 6 with Nico O'Reilly inverting, and then you got Elliot Anderson and one of Ryan Cherki or Phil Foden, the midfield looks a lot better. But Buadi is an exciting signing for Manchester City. Now, whether or not they're going to go and try and break the bank and get Enzo Fernandez from Chelsea, maybe even the likes of Pedro Neto, because we talked about options in the middle, right? Now we look at the wide sides for Manchester City. They've got Semenyo and Doku. From there is a huge drop-off. We saw yesterday, Grealish came on in that second half for Jeremy Doku on that left-hand side and was torturous to watch. I mean, that is not football. Whatever he was doing on that pitch is absolutely unacceptable. Jack Grealish's use might be in the center here in Enzo Maresca's system, because he does not have the pace and the directness to attack the flank. So Jack Grealish cannot be a Doku or a Semenyo replacement. And if Savinho leaves, which is more than likely that's going to happen, maybe to Spurs, by the looks of it, City will have to buy a wide player, and that's why they're interested in Pedro Neto. You can understand why, but Pedro Neto seems that he might be off to Saudi, so we'll wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks in terms of that development. So from Manchester City's point, they've lost Rodri, they've lost Bernardo Silva, they've lost John Stones. I think they've lost Nathan Ake too. These are some big players for them in terms of experience and leadership, and of course quality. And now it's up to Enzo Maresca to try and figure that out. Will he get time? We'll wait and see. It was not a good look in the Community Shield. They've not had the best of pre-seasons. They lost the first couple of games. They beat the Korean All-Stars and Atletico Madrid, but that game against Arsenal, like I said before, the Community Shield is not about the trophy. Arsenal won 3. We don't count them over here. They might use it for arguments and stuff like that. Never allow them to do so, right? But this time, when they beat Manchester City, it was a statement. They put their foot on their throat and they did not let go. Full credit to the way that Arsenal played. Mikel Arteta had City in a chokehold, and the way that they played through the centre. I love the way that Christos Zolis was playing on that left-hand side. He was not looking to do too much on his first proper debut. He kept it short, he kept it sharp, and he looked a threat. And he got 2 assists on debut. Maybe a friendly, but still fantastic, especially in Wembley. Well, that's the thing, Karan. It is a lot. The physicality in the Premier League is going to take a lot to adjust. And that's why that Bruno Guimaraes signing for Arsenal has been a sensational one. And for 75 million quid, I do not care about his age. People look at him as a 28, 29 years of age. Oh, we might have paid 60, 65. How does it matter, man? I mean, those prices are anyway amortized over the length of the contract. It does not matter. You get a player like Bruno Guimaraes, you slot him next to Declan Rice, and you just see your midfield transform. And that's what Arsenal have done, and full credit to them. Christos Zolis seems like a very shrewd operation buy in terms of replacing Leandro Trossard, but that left wing spot for Arsenal, despite having 2 players in each position, that left wing spot, now it could be Christos Zolis gets the all thumbs up, all clear to go and start at left wing, and then you see Martinelli probably being sold, but they need another option there because they might end up short. Eze could easily fill in as left winger, but you do not get what Christos Zolis offers there, or the kind of directness that you need on the left-hand side. On that right, you've got Bukayo Saka and, of course, Noni Madueke. Madueke, of course, who can shift on that left-hand side if need be for Mikel Arteta to get Saka and Madueke in the same team. And, of course, they've got Havertz and Gyökeres as their two strikers. If Enzo goes, I believe Wharton would suit better than Alex Scott. Also, on the Glasner, they played in the middle four, so he could fit well with Xabi Alonso's 3-4-3, says Karan. They need a proven left. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, see, if you're Chelsea, right, you know that City are kind of desperate at this moment, but I'm not really sure City are going to spend another 100 million in the middle, especially when they're getting Buadi and they've spent 116 on Elliot Anderson, right? So Buadi might be happy to come off the bench and stuff like that, but I find it very difficult to see at this point if Chelsea do end up selling Enzo Fernandez to Manchester City. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure it's a fluid situation. Chelsea gave them a deadline. They didn't abide by it. And then we'll see whether or not they make a late move in the window. But if they do, Karan, you're absolutely right. We need a solid midfielder. Now, whether or not that's Wharton or Alex Scott, I don't care. I need somebody who can complement Moises Caicedo. We've been desperate for it, and it looks like Dario Sugo is not ready to be partnering Caicedo. I mean, he could partner Caicedo in some of those lesser cup games, but in the Premier League, not yet. If Romeo Lavia is fit, it solves all our problems. But I cannot, in good conscience, cannot subscribe to the fact that we can trust Romeo Lavia, because we've seen 3 seasons of him. He's yet to complete 90 minutes in a competitive game. We saw him complete 90 minutes against, was that AC Milan where he completed 90 minutes? I think he did. That's the only time he completed 90 minutes, and it's been in pre-season. And yep, absolutely for Arsenal currently, they need a proven left winger. It's a gamble whether or not they feel that Zolis and someone like Eberiche Eze can shift onto the left-hand side. Madueke can also play on the left. It's a dangerous game that you're playing. It's a bit of a gamble. You're probably leaving yourself short. But Arsenal, having spent north of 120 million pounds, is that enough ambition? Because look, what we talked about is, look, Arsenal so good yesterday, right? And it gave that feeling like, oh my goodness me, they could win the Prem here by a distance. But let's not get carried away. I'm just going to take you back 12 months. Liverpool won the title at a canter. They went out there and they spent big, north of 400 million quid. They got Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak, Milos Kerkez, and Jeremy Frimpong, right? And what happened to them? It all went tits up. That cannot happen. Arsenal are a lot more of a solid team. I do not expect that kind of a drop-off. Even if they're at their worst, they'll finish second, right? That's Arsenal's ceiling right now under Mikel Arteta. Whatever the players he has, the way that he's got them set up, they're so hard to beat. They barely lose games, man. I mean, the fact that they lost one game in the Champions League last season, and that was the Champions League final on pens, just shows you that this is a serious defensive outfit. And as a Chelsea fan, that absolutely hurts, because if you take yourself back about 15 years ago, we were them and they were us. And now we're seeing a complete 180. And it hurts me, because as Chelsea, we always identify as defensively solid, be it Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, even Carlo Ancelotti. When we scored 103 goals in the Premier League, we always had a solid defense. Well, Karan, perfectly, you mentioned that Arsenal do not have competition in the Premier League. That goes straight in. Just give me a sec. That was a lengthy monologue. I went about 20 minutes. I thought I'll spend about 10 minutes on those guys, but that's the way it works here on the channel. It flows. It just goes wherever it goes. So we're talking about the who's going to challenge Arsenal, right? Because we made that comparison. Liverpool last year won the title, spent all that money, nosedive. Arsenal haven't spent money, even though it's been north of 120 million and they've not really made sales, but it is Arsenal's to lose, and by some distance. And if you look at the nearest contenders, I've got 3 in my mind, and you can make a case for and against very easily. So let me know your thoughts. First up, I'm going with Liverpool, right? Because they have a lot of chopping and changing happening in it, but in terms of the squad and the firepower that they have, yes, they've lost Mohamed Salah. Looks like Bradley Barcola might be coming in, so I'm factoring in that as well. Even if Barcola doesn't come, Barcola comes, it just fortifies my strength, right? My point. But let's assume Bradley Barcola is coming. Their front line is scary, man. Isaac, let's not forget, this guy is a 20-goal season striker. We didn't see any of that last season because of his form, the way that he had no preseason, and of course, the injury he suffered. And yes, it's a huge blow that Hugo Ekitike is not there for Liverpool, right? Because him and Isak as a two-step or even as replacing each other, dangerous proposition. I truly believe Florian Wirtz is going to have a much better season because he got a bit mollycoddled last season because we've seen with the Liverpool players and press, they're not really as fair as they would be with other teams. But I'm expecting Florian Wirtz to improve. Of course, Dominic Szoboszlai under Andoni Iraola is going to be a real problem. This guy, even though they had a stinky season last summer, he was ready, man. Szoboszlai is top player, and in that high intensity, high press, pressing style, forward movement, Szoboszlai is going to thrive. Now, in midfield is Liverpool's problem, I feel, because McAllister, in that title-winning season, he was awesome, but then had a monumental drop off, and he's had no summer off this time as well. So whether or not his legs will be holding up, we'll wait and see. Gravenberch, yes, he played as number 6 in the title winning season again, but he's not a natural number 6. The way that he can turn facing the goal away and then start off attacks is world class. I'm not gonna lie, but then there are other aspects as a number 6 as well that he does fall short of. So Liverpool in that position might struggle. They've got Rio Ngumuva, Victor Munoz as two dynamic wingers that they can just add to their firepower. And I'm looking at Jeremy Jacquet. There's been a lot of talk about Liverpool not being serious in the window and not really backing Andoni Iraola, but Jeremy Jacquet, he's gone under the radar. We saw him play against Como yesterday. It was only 45 minutes, but man, oh man, that guy looks like the part. Him alongside Virgil van Dijk, you're looking at a really strong two in mid defense. The only problem is at goalkeeper now. That's one of their problems. Goalkeeper is a huge problem because if Alisson starts in place, no issues whatsoever. But Alisson picks up injuries every year, and Mamadashvili is nowhere near Alisson's level. His kicking, his shot stopping, his general commanding off the box, none of that compares to the Brazilian. So that will be a huge drop-off that they have to watch out for. And of course, their fullbacks now. Kerkez has had a bit of a dip when he started at Liverpool, improved as the year went on, and he's playing with a manager who's used him at Bournemouth before. So I'm expecting Kerkez to have another upward trend of a season. And then we saw that right back position now. Frimpong looked out of his depth last season. You saw Arne Slot even use him as a right winger because you couldn't trust him at right back. That cannot be the case if you're a £40 million right back who's won the league with Leverkusen in the Bundesliga under Xabi Alonso, right? So that's going to be an interesting point how their right-hand side does end up functioning because Jeremy, with Mohamed Salah gone, Trent Alexander-Arnold no longer there, what used to be their strength is their weakness. Now, if Bradley Barcola comes, he's going to be playing as a left winger, despite them saying that, yes, he can play on the right-hand side. But you want your marquee signing, that £100 million winger that you're getting to play in his best position, and that's on that left-hand side. So it will be interesting to see how Liverpool do end up with their transfer window, but I'm putting them top of the list to try and unsettle Arsenal at the top. Let's get into the comments here. Currently, you've got the chat fired up here. Do not think so. Iraola makes them run and they're already worn out with slots here. Iraola said his players can't maintain tempo for more than 30 minutes. They may rise, but quite later. Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, the fitness element is going to hurt Liverpool, right? We saw that last season where there's gaps of space emerging, but someone like Jeremy Jacquet makes a huge difference because Ibrahima Konate was having a down year last season, of course, with his mind at Real Madrid. But I think Liverpool will be fine, man. They're going to have those intensity issues. They are going to concede a lot of goals. They're not going to have anywhere near Arsenal's solidity at the back, right? But they can score goals, man. Especially at Anfield with Iraola, they're going to be scoring a back full of goals. And if you can do that in this league, you are good. So, look, like I said before, when I mentioned the three teams that are going to be challenging for Arsenal's league crown, you can make a case for and, of course, against. Love to know what Mahib thinks of both. Just like the Liverpool media, Karan. mollycoddling. He's a kid. He just joined the league. But if it's Caicedo, nah. You gotta hammer him. Anyways, that's a bit. But I do expect Florian Wirtz to have a much better season, especially with Andoni Iraola and how he extracts the maximum from his team. I mean, look at what he did with Krupi Jr. at Bournemouth. Krupi Jr. looks the businessman. Unfortunately, he broke his foot in pre-season, which means that Bournemouth are going to struggle. New management, players being stripped off, possibly losing Alex Scott as well. So we'll see how Bournemouth do end up, especially with Europe playing that for the first time in their history. So it'll be interesting to see how Bournemouth do end up. So that's number one, is Liverpool. Second, I'm going with Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa is a curious case, right? Because I rate Unai Emery so highly. The sheer achievements that he has done with the Villa squad, despite it being good, he has turned them from a laughing stock. He took over from Steven Gerrard. Aston Villa were hovering in the relegation zone, and look at them now. Do you want to go to Villa Park and see your team play against them, especially when the lights are on? It's darkness. That no way, man. Villa Park is one of the worst places to go, and Unai Emery has got them going, dude. Look, there are going to be issues, right? Now, with Aston Villa, my only issue is how they back Unai Emery, man. This guy delivers every single time for them. He exceeds their expectations, and he still gets the dross that he handles. I mean, I'm so happy Chelsea got rid of Alejandro Garnacho. Unfortunately, it was Aston Villa who had to get him, right? Look, they got Jadon Sancho and Victor Lindelof last summer. No, man, you do not go shopping to Manchester United's cast-offs if you're trying to get into the Champions League and, try and make moves. I understand Aston Villa are nowhere near the perfect squad, nowhere near the perfect team. Unai Emery is a bit of an old school manager, 4-4-2, solid, keep everything solid, and then try and score a couple of goals on the break. Very simplistic style, which is super effective. Yes, he's got Champions League to deal with. And why I give Unai Emery so much props is look at his squad last season and how the hell he managed to get into the top 4 position. Yes, they outperformed the XG, as they said, but Unai Emery does this every time. He's been rewarded with a bit of a gem here. Johan Manzambi, the Swiss number 10, who came from Freiburg, where Aston Villa did end up getting a good look at him in the Europa League final, which was Freiburg versus Aston Villa, which Villa ended up winning 3-0. But I believe if Aston Villa were a bit serious, like it's pretty close that they might end up getting Nico Jackson, right? So, which is probably going to be the case. We're going to get back into the Nico Jackson spot when we discuss Chelsea, but if Nico Jackson and Ollie Watkins are their 2 strikers, they've got Johan Manzabi, Buendia, they've got on the right-hand side, John McGinn, who is absolutely world-class, man. Even at this age and stage, he still goes hard. There is a huge miss for them in midfield, which is they've lost Tielemans to Manchester United and Amadou Onana through an injury at the World Cup. So that's going to be a huge call as to how he brings that balance in midfield. They got João Gomez from Wolves, who's a £40 million signing, who's a tenacious player. He can get about the pitch, but that's a huge loss on Onana. And of course, Boubacar Kamara becomes all the more important in that central position. They cannot afford anything to happen to them. So if I'm putting Aston Villa there, but I need them to see, if they lose Ezri Konsa and they make no moves again, you're deliberately weakening yourself, and then you're just left with Victor Lindelof and Pau Torres as your 2 centre-halves. You've lost Luca Dean to Paris Saint-Germain. So Aston Villa have been ripped to shreds, but I'm looking at the other teams, whether or not they're equipped over the 38-game season. I have more faith on Unai Emery rather than Aston Villa's squad. So I'm looking at Aston Villa. I can very easily see them finishing top 4 again, especially if they don't go too deep in the knockout competition, that is the Champions League, especially with Unai Emery being the Europa League master and not the Champions League one. So if Aston Villa possibly get knocked out, I can see them challenging Arsenal. Again, they were pretty close, man, towards the turn of the year. It looked like it was Arsenal, Aston Villa and Manchester City. But I want to see Unai Emery get backed a little bit more. It might be Jackson coming in. Maybe they get another midfielder, but they need reinforcements, right? And in number 3, I'm still going Manchester City. Look, City, they've got Haaland. You always have a chance, right? Look, Erling Haaland, under Pep Guardiola towards the back end of the season, we've seen even with Enzo Maresca throughout preseason, he just doesn't get the best out of his strikers. We saw Joao Pedro really struggling for goals. It was under Liam Rossignol where Joao Pedro really popped off and went on a tear. But it is going to be really interesting to see how City do end up getting their balance. They still have so much quality, man. Let's not get it twisted, because that Community Shield game was an eye opener, but I do expect Enzo Maresca to get his footprint in there. They've got quality all over. The back three is good. They got Mark Gahey, Guardiol, Kusanov, Ruben Diaz. That is good enough. Mateus Nunes is going to have to adapt his game because he's no longer going to become that right back for them. In midfield, you got Elliot Anderson, you got Kovacic, Buadi's coming in, you got your two number 10s, Shirky, Foden. The wide areas, like I mentioned before, is a bit of a weakness because they've got only Doku and Semenyo there. They need to fortify that area and get another winger to really help out, especially if Savinho's leaving. And then, of course, you got Erling Haaland, man. He is guaranteeing you 20 goals a season. So City are always going to be in and amongst those top three states. So I'm looking at probably Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, City as a top four. It could very easily change, but those are the three teams that I feel that can really give Arsenal a bit of a push, because Chelsea and Manchester United, Spurs, look, they belong in a separate category. Three very unserious teams. Three different kinds of summers, really, but when you look at the last couple of seasons, they have no business being anywhere in the terms of favorites or should be in the top four. Fifth and below is where we see them. For Chelsea, if you finish top four, that's fantastic. But in the absence of European football, could Chelsea even try to upset and push and come to third? It's more hope rather than expectation, because I have not seen any proof. So until I see it with my own two eyes, where you see Chelsea being consistent week in, week out, then we can possibly put Chelsea in that conversation. And then the same goes with Manchester United. Don't let that third position fool you last summer. I mean, last season, that should have been a huge black mark because they were trash under Ruben Amorim. Michael Carrick comes in and he's lifted them with spirit, get the place going. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes broke the assist record, but if you watch the games like I did, first of all, his last assist shouldn't have counted, but I'm just nitpicking. But there was a lot of crosses into the box and corners. Again, not very sustainable. Maybe they can, but I don't see Manchester United, especially with the business they're done. It shouldn't come as any surprise, because Manchester United always, when they qualify for the Champions League, their summer window after that is a massive letdown for them and their fans. I mean, it is horrible. Look, Santos and Tielemans, two very good players in their own right. Tielemans especially. Manchester United have not had a controller in midfield for a very, very long time. And what is Aston Villa's loss is Manchester United's gain. Because, look, now the problem is with Tielemans, you cannot partner him next to Kobbie Mainoo, because then your midfield is completely open. They're dead. So Andre Santos becomes a key cog, because he has to start. And then it's one of Kobbie Mainoo or Tielemans as your midfield option, because Bruno Fernandes is going to start week in, week out, whatever happens. So that midfield, while it's been solved with two players, the balance still has to be sorted. Because if you saw that game against AC Milan, Ruben Amorim's side cut them open. The lack of pace is apparent. They're still running a back four of Eric Ten Hag all those years ago. Nothing much has changed for Manchester United, but they're still very dangerous on the counter-attack. They've got goals in their team with Fernandes, Šeško, Mbuemo, Ahmad and Cunha. They are all game changers, which is why I'm giving Manchester United a shot in terms of finishing in that 6-7 spot. But top four, no way, man. Again, it needs catastrophic loss of form and everything just falling apart for the rest of the teams for Manchester United to finish fourth again. So we'll wait and see. This season as well, Arsenal won't walk to the title. They'll win, but again would crawl to do it as any other teams do not have that kind of quality, which I agree with, Karan. And it's not really, I don't really think Arsenal really care if they do it at a canter or not. It's just everybody else making that noise. Arsenal are not a team that blow you away, right? Their attack, while they've got players, they're not going to score 3 or 4 goals on the regular. They're still a team that will win that 1-0, 2-0. They'll still rely on set pieces. There's not much has changed with Mikel Arteta. He likes what he sees, and that's how he plays. So we'll wait and see how they figure out. But they are so far ahead. I looked at the two benches yesterday, Manchester City's and Arsenal's. Oh my goodness me, City's look like a 10th place squad's bench compared to Arsenal's, because Arsenal had Max Dauman, Eberiche Eze, Victor Gyökeres. Who else did they have in midfield? Martin Zubermendi, Mikel Merino, Jesus and Martinelli were not on the bench. They still had enough to come on. Bukayo Saka, how can I forget? And Saka coming off the bench as well. So there was enough there for Arsenal in terms of getting over the line. It's not going to be pretty. It never is with Arsenal. I mean, not the best side to watch as a neutral, but they are a deadly effective squad. And I fully expect them to go the distance both domestically and in Europe. What else have we got here? So we've discussed the potential challengers, talked about Spurs as well as just a side note and footnote. They're going to be a very interesting team to watch under Roberto De Zerbi. Look, De Zerbi is a madman, right? And he was pretty crazy to take the Spurs job, especially with their season just nose diving into relegation after Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor was part of the setup. De Zerbi got sacked by Marseille. He took the job with 7 games to go. They had a bit of a wobble, but they kind of sort of stable, but they had to go towards the last game of the season to secure their status in the Premier League, right? So De Zerbi got the job done. You saw it from their celebrations, and then he's been back to the hill now. They went big, and they went big early. First pickup, which is a really shrewd one, and it's going to go under the radar, is Marco Senesi from Bournemouth on a free. What a signing that is for De Zerbi, man. He's a brilliant ball player. We've seen him under Iraola, and I think he's going to go up another level. Alongside him, they went with Jan-Paul van Hecke, 70 million euros upwards from Brighton. You've seen the connection between Brighton and De Zerbi in the past. No surprises there. And that right-hand side looks a lot more solid with Van Hecke. And on the left-hand side, you either have Mickey van der Ven or Senesi. Huge loss losing Jet Spence. But in midfield, they've gone big, man. They spent nearly, 170 million pounds? 175 even? With getting Sandro Tonali for 90 million quid from Newcastle United. And of course, Mateus Fernandes from relegated West Ham for 85 million quid, man. I mean, that is absolutely wild. Elliot Anderson's price in the summer has dictated all the other transfer fees, especially in midfield. And that's why you saw the likes of Tonali go for 90, Fernandes going for 85. And if Chelsea want big money for Enzo Fernandez, there's a precedent set, and Chelsea are well within their rights to ask for it. So, but the forward line for Spurs is going to be the tricky bit, right? Because look, Mohamed Kudus coming back is a huge plus for Tottenham Hotspur. They sorely missed him last season after starting off well, despite not having the kind of output that he was hoping for. But on that right-hand side, he changes the game for them. Now, whether or not they try and invest again in the forward line, we'll wait and see, because Xavi Simons has picked up an ACL injury. He's going to be out for pretty much the rest of the season. Maddison comes back, but we don't know his fitness because he's coming back from a big injury themselves. They've got Kolomuani, they've got Richarlison. Who else have they got on that left-hand side? I'm trying to pretty much drawing a blank in terms of Spurs' forward line, but it doesn't really fill you with too much confidence. They're a team that just about get over the line rather than try and blow teams away. But De Zerbi, we've seen his teams pop, and even with limited resources, Spurs are going to be a problem next season. But again, would I have them anywhere in the top 6? Possibly not. Yes, they're playing 1 game a season as well, but De Zerbi, before it all explodes, is very much capable of having Spurs on the up. So that's going to be the interesting part. Title race, I don't see it one really developing. The only way is Arsenal having a bit of a car crash start, because they've got Coventry at home, Villa away, and then they host Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium. Chelsea's record at the Emirates, mind you, in the last, since Thomas Tuchel was there, 2021, has been freaking atrocious. So I don't even want to call that a tough game for Arsenal, but something's got to change, right? The law of averages, something for Arsenal. It's got to be Murphy's law. Everything that can possibly go wrong has to go wrong in that game, because for Chelsea now, anyway, we've nicely segued to Chelsea. It is our club, but let's discuss Chelsea, right? I can do this for another 2 hours, but I'm just going to have another 10 minutes of your time, and I'm going to be out of here. Just trying something new, of course, with a Monday night podcast kind of situation here. Just have a chat with you guys. Let me know what you think in terms of predictions. I'm going to be adding the Real Madrid watch alongs very soon as well. I'm not going to cover all their games, but just because Jose Mourinho is there, especially at the big time, I want to see how Real Madrid, that dynamic between Jose Mourinho and Kylian Mbappe, they've added Yan Diamonde, they've got Vinicius Junior, State Bellingham, Goulart, all that kind of talent. It's going to be pretty crazy to see all of them under Jose Mourinho, and of course the defensive reinforcements that they've got with Konate, Kukureya, and of course Denzel Dumfries. So that's what brings us to Chelsea nicely. So last season, it filled me with so much rage. So much rage. Oh my goodness. Because it started off so well. We knew the drop off was coming, right? Because Chelsea had a long season. We just about scraped fourth. We had to play the UEFA Conference League, which we ended up winning, and then the Club World Cup. So there was no rest whatsoever. Palmer gets injured, Colby gets an ACL injury, and our season just falls apart early. We were 3 points behind Arsenal end of November before we welcomed them to the bridge. That game ended up 1-1, and from there on, Arsenal went from strength to strength, and Chelsea just fell off a cliff. It's going to take a lot of trust. They have to do so much more to gain our trust back, man. I mean, our minds, Karan, every Chelsea fan, I just didn't want to talk football, man. If I wasn't doing this, right, if I wasn't like live streaming and stuff like that, I would have turned off the TV on so many occasions. The number of times that we just threw games away. 7 red cards in the Premier League, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe even 8. I think Wesley Fofana got one end of the season, which is why he's not going to be playing the first 2 games from this season. We had like 8 red cards and so many suicidal ones. The Manchester United one, the Brighton game at home, I'll never forget, where we were cruising and we just chucked it away. Fulham game, Marco Cucurella getting a straight red card. I mean, the list is countless, right? So Chelsea have to grow up. What Chelsea have done in terms of getting the squad to grow up is get experience. Now, the players that we have signed, Danny Welbeck, Jordan Henderson, Pep Chavaria. Chavaria, I'm just going to keep to the side because there is something about him in terms of the drive and the running on that left-hand side, and clearly Xabi Alonso's seen something about him. But to get Welbeck and Jordan Henderson, they are not Chelsea-coded signings. Even in their pomp, Chelsea would not be signing them, but they've signed them at this stage of their career. Both Henderson's 36, Welbeck's 34. Now, that can only be in terms of these guys are 2 Premier League winners for Liverpool and Manchester United respectively. They've been at the league for over 10 years. Now, learn in terms of professionalism and what they can bring, because I don't want to see Jordan Henderson when Chelsea are playing Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium with all the problems that we have. It can't be Moises Caicedo and Jordan Henderson in midfield. No way. He can come on for cup games, mentor the likes of Lavia, Esugo, and maybe whoever else is coming in, but we cannot see Jordan Henderson especially playing big games for Chelsea. Cup games, fair enough. We'll try and gamble, even though I don't really want to see him start games. Maybe come on in the second half, last 30 minutes, give Lavia a bit of a break. Sure. But these are 2 curious signings. Danny Welbeck is a gunner, man. He scored, 12 league goals last season? He's a proper player. And Chelsea had this massive drop-off from Joao Pedro to Liam Delap last year. I was telling my friend jokingly that I am closer to Liam Delap than Liam Delap is closer to Joao Pedro. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the drop-off from Joao Pedro to Liam Delap is not sustainable. So Joao Pedro is operating at a very close to world-class level. So the drop-off is always going to be there, but we need somebody who can link up, at least have a threat at goal, because every time Liam Delap used to come in, we just knew that we're not going to score through him. So if Danny Welbeck's there, a bit of Premier League experience and know-how and very good finishing, both right and left foot, could turn into a good signing. But Chelsea's second striker problem is there, because it looks like Jackson, which you talked about, might go to Aston Villa. Chelsea might end up getting a lot of money from him. About 75 million quid is what the asking price could be. That second striker problem is going to be there, because Delap looks like he's on his way out and he should not be given a second chance. Not after what I saw last season. I'm all about giving players who join Chelsea a chance. I try to see their best even at their worst. With Delap, there was been nothing. Absolutely none. He's more of a wrestler than a football player. And if he wasn't British and a white guy, he would be absolutely slaughtered. And that's just facts, because if you see, find one negative article about Liam Delap. He's also been a £30 million signing. So is Nico Jackson. Jackson has come from Villarreal. This guy's come from the Premier League. Look at the difference in terms of play and output. It is not even comparable. And for some crazy reason, Chelsea are willing to let Jackson go. We're going to have to accept it, because what other choice do we have? Because I'll never trust this board, right? Look at the amount of signings we've made. Look at the sheer amount of money that we have spent. Yes, Chelsea have done well in terms of recouping cash, but the squad building has been curious, to say the least. So we talked about those two in experience, and then we added a bit more experience on the side. Maxence Lacroix, the £50 million signing from Crystal Palace. Now, this one is an interesting one because it kind of changes our dynamics. I like Maxence Lacroix. Crystal Palace is a side that I watch very carefully. I loved them when they had Wilfred Zaha, when they had Eberiche Eze and Michael Elise running the two-step, Jean-Philippe Mateta, class striker. So I watch a lot of Crystal Palace, and Maxence Lacroix is an excellent defender in a back three, even in a back four. No issues with that. There's a reason why he was like third choice centre half at the World Cup for France as well. So you've seen his astronomical growth, and in his presence, him being in the heart of defence, he's become a winner at Palace. They won the FA Cup, they won the Community Shield, and they won the Conference League. So this guy's got a bit of credentials coming in. Now, Lacroix is 6'5". He's fast, he's strong, he's quick, and he's got that recovery pace and that last-ditch challenge, putting his body on the line kind of attitude about him, right? But he's not the best with the ball at his feet. Yes, he can distribute and play, but if you're going to play a back three, now I don't have tactic boards, just this is a bit of a bush league setup, but stay with me here. If you're going to play with a back three, because we got Wesley Fofana or Reece James as that right hand side centre half, and the problem is that left hand side centre half, so you don't have too much depth. If you're going to play our strongest back three, it's going to be Lacroix, Levi Colwill, and one of Reece James or Wesley Fofana. Let's just put Wesley Fofana in that three because he's more of a natural centre half. But in terms of balance, if those three are going to play with Chelsea's back three, it's going to be Fofana on the right, Lacroix in the centre, and Levi Colwill on the left-hand side. Now, ideally, I don't have an issue with Levi on that left-hand side, but if Levi is that centre back, Chelsea will be playing so much better football. If we have Levi on that left, yes, he's still going to be finding those line breakers and those excellent passing range that he's got, but we lose a lot of it when he's not in that centre back positions. But with Lacroix not possibly being able to be filling in at left side centre half, we might have to take a gamble and start him there, because I think Levi Colwill has to be centre half. He's the best defender at the club until proven otherwise. It looks like Fofana might be on the right. Lacroix can also be on that right hand side, and as left centre half, we can get Jarell Harto. So there are options for Xabi Alonso in that department. If you add Reece James, Josh Achimpong also to the mix, Chelsea have options. Oh, I'll never forget Josh Curran. Absolutely not. Liam Delap would not make bench at my local academy head coach. And yeah, he's not. He really isn't. And whoever's going to spend 30 million on him, good luck to them. So Josh Achimpong again, Curran, I got no doubts about his ability. Every time I see him on the pitch, I look at him, unicorn profile. If Chelsea sell him, it would be absolutely wild. And I want to see him as a centre half and not as a right back, as we saw him under Maresca and Rossini last season. Be as one of the centre halves. And even if we need a centre back option, if Levi Colwill is not fit, put Josh Achimpong there, man. He's 6'5". He's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He can dribble, he can pass. We've seen everything from him. He just needs a bit of faith. So we'll wait and see. Because of the lack of games, Josh Achimpong may not get too many starts, but he's certainly a valuable player for us, man. So I'm not going to be discounting Josh Achimpong at all. And I certainly would put more trust in him rather than Wesley Fofana, because this is Wesley Fofana's 5th year now. You've seen what we have seen. Good player, great pace. That recovery pace is why he's in the team, man, because the front foot defending and the space that Chelsea leave behind, he changes the game for us in that department. But long term, no doubt in my mind, Josh Achimpong has to be as one of the centre halves for us. We would be absolutely crazy to let him go. So that's the centre halves position, where we've got enough options, especially with just one game a week and a bit of cup football coming in. I agree, man. Josh could leave by Jan, and that would be a huge misstep from us. We've lost Chalobah, I agree, to Como, but there's one thing about Cobham, right? We produce awesome defenders. We just do, man. Look at Mark Gay for Manchester City as well. Just as a throwaway example, Nathan Ake, I'm going to put another one from him, let alone all the defenders we've had at the club. Trust them. They know the game. They are outstanding, and especially with unicorn profiles like Josh Archibald. Even look at Levi Colville, man. He's an absolute boss of a centre half for us. So trust Cobham, Xabi Alonso. You're going to get a lot of dividends if you trust Cobham, especially with defense. Going forward, I'm not really sure. Fafana needs to go, man. Yeah, I agree, Karan, but we're going to be stuck with him. There's who's going to take Wesley Fofana on the contract that he has until his contract runs out. He's going to be with us. I've made my peace with it, man. He's on a 7-year deal. He joined in 2022, 2023. He's going to be with us till for another couple of years, unless Chelsea are finding a willing suitor to take half his wages. He's on like 250k a week. He's one of our top earners. He has been there before Chelsea got that new wage structure, right? Which we've seen Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, all under 200k a week. So Wesley Fofana is not going anywhere. Better make our peace with it. And when he starts, he starts. He gives us good moments. He gives us terrible moments too. I mean, we've seen the way that he is when crosses are coming into the box. He just looks lost in there. We're going to have to absorb his contract pretty much. Unless he goes back to Marseille and they're willing to like take half his wages. Yeah, Wesley Fofana is going to be at the club. Last season was the first one where he's had an injury-free season. Wait and see whether or not that carries on. So that's the centre half situation. Let's go to wing backs, which it looks like I'm going to assume that Xabi Alonso is going to play the back three with two wing backs because that's what the last three games have been. So the wing back options are certainly very interesting. Marco Palestra looks like he's going to be first name on the team sheet, either at right wing back or on the left-hand side. £50 million signing from Cagliari. He's looked good, man. There are a few deficiencies in his game, but he's got a real engine about him. He's kind of like Ricardo Calafiori in terms of how he pops up in the central positions as well from the wide areas. And then, of course, he's got that real engine, the burst, that physicality, the dribbling that he's got. He's ambipedal and he can play on both sides. Defensively, yes, he's going to be tested, especially if he does play right wing. He's going to be up against some of the left wingers in the leagues, someone like Jeremy Doku, for example. So there's going to be some baptisms by fire for a new right wing back. So he's one of the options. Another one I look at as an option as a right wing back is Giovanni Kenda. Now watch out for this guy. He has got the goods, man. He can also operate as one of the half space players on that right hand side. But I'll get to you why I don't think his future is going to be there. But if he's playing as a back four and he's got two wingers, he's certainly an option Chelsea can use on the right or even on the left. And I can also see Giovanni Kenda playing as a left wing back as well. If you've got Kenda on the left-hand side and Marco Palestra on the right-hand side. So we've got that one defender, one attacker dynamic on the wings as well. So there is an opportunity for Kenda to see those multiple positions. I'm really excited to see how it is. £40 million signing from Sporting Lisbon. He's had a couple of injury issues, but I'm I'm heartened in the way that I've seen him in pre-season. So more power to Kenda. It looks like Pedro Neto might be on his way out. We've got Malo Gusto as another option on that right-hand side as a wing-back. Now, Malo, he's a bit polarizing in our fan base. Some people just hate him overtly, but I remember his first season where he played right back under Pochettino. He was just brilliant, man. He was absolutely brilliant. And then you just felt like, oh, Chelsea's right back problems with Reece James always being injury prone are solved for the next 10 years because he was 19 in that first summer. He came in, he looked money. I thought he was one of our top three players in that season, just behind Cole Palmer and Moises Caicedo in that season. So we got another option on the right-hand side. On the left, now, that's where it gets interesting. If you're playing at the back four and a left back, I could see Jarell Hato being a left back. But if you're playing with a back three and wing back, I don't see Jarell Hato there. Hato is going to be a cover as left-sided centre-half for Levi Colville by the looks of it. Or if Colville plays centre, Jarell Hato can start on the left-hand side. On that left, it could be either Palestra or Pep Chavaria. Chelsea spending on the 27, 28-year-old uncapped player from Rayo Vallecano. He's certainly going to be interesting. He's almost like a Kirkes kind of signing, right? Where he's got the engine, he's got the tenacity, he's got an opportunity for playing for one of these smaller sides in Spain to due respect to Rayo Vallecano, but moving to the Premier League from there and then to Chelsea, it's certainly a huge step up for him. So I'm expecting him to have a jump despite not having the most technique about him, but he's a tenacious runner. He's got pace, and with pace, we need pace. We need a lot of runners in our team, and if we can get them from both directions, hallelujah. We need pace, especially with Cole Palmer in the team, and he needs runners. We need to provide them with as many runners as possible. Right, that comes straight into midfield. Now, this gives me a bit of a heart episode, right? Because we've got Moises Caicedo, no problem, number 6, sorted. We have used him like a bar of soap the last 3 years. I am so worried. The second Moy breaks down is when Chelsea's season falls apart, right? So he is absolutely critical in that position. If Romeo Lavia can stay fit, that is a huge boost for us. Chelsea did end up losing Andre Santos for 48 million plus a couple million add-ons to Manchester United. So we're slightly short in that department. Now, you guys probably will be saying, oh, we got Lavia, we got Isugo as a bench option, and we got Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. In the double pivot, we simply don't win enough games. We just haven't. We have seen 3 years of evidence, and we just don't win enough games with those two in midfield. So if they're going to have to start playing in a midfield pivot, they're going to have to start now. And if there's one season that I'm willing to give Enzo Fernandez a chance in the double pivot, is under Xabi Alonso, because Xabi was a pass master, midfield maestro himself. So if he can't learn or regain some of that form that he had before joining Chelsea in that deeper role, I don't see a use for Enzo Fernandez, because as the two number 10s, we've got Cole Palmer as our right-sided number 10, and we've got Morgan Rogers, a 117 million pound man from Aston Villa, as our left-sided number 10. Now, as soon as Rogers came in, I just felt that, yep, we're going to go with the back three. Yes, Xabi Alonso has played with the back three with Leverkusen, but it just felt that because he's not a natural left winger, right, we're going to have, there are going to be times where we're going to play with the back four, and we might just end up seeing Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, and Morgan Rogers as a front three with Joao Pedro leading the line, right? So there's various permutations and combinations with the sheer number of attacking players Chelsea have in their books. But with Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer and Joao Pedro, that is a front three that can really get things exciting. Yes, there are deficiencies. Cole Palmer needs to find his levels again. With Joao Pedro, 10 on 10, no notes. This guy has changed our broke-ass lives, man. Chelsea, we have got that number 9 curse, right? But when we get it right, we get it right. Drogba, Costa, and now Joao Pedro. He is money, man. Just make sure we protect him, because we don't have cover in that department, and not anybody who can nearly replicate what he does on the football pitch. I would love it if Chelsea kept Jackson as our number 2. That would be phenomenal depth for Chelsea, but it looks like Chelsea's head might be turned with a big Aston Villa offer probably incoming. So that's our forward line, which has got a lot of interest. And then, of course, I have not forgotten Esteban Willian and Giovanni Kenda. Esteban Willian and Jamie Gittins. We mentioned Kenda before, but Jamie Gittins and Esteban. Now, Esteban is going to be one of those right-hand side half-space winger options that we have. He can combine with Cole Palmer. We can see him on the right-hand side with Giovanni Kenda even. Esteban is going to have a big season, but we have to manage his minutes. Look, there was news that there was a possible grade 3 or grade 4 even injury on his hamstring. Thankfully, they were only rumors. He missed out on the World Cup, but Chelsea have to manage Esteban Williams' minutes. We cannot be having him start week in, week out. So I'm very happy to see him get the odd 20 or 30 minute cameo and start the occasional game. There cannot be that kind of pressure on him to start games, despite that crazy amount of talent that he's got and the glimpses that we saw last season. He needs to score a lot more goals. We saw that goal against Liverpool at the Bridge, where it's absolutely wild, last minute winner. Crazy stuff indeed. And that goal against Barcelona at the Bridge as well, which was absolutely fantastic. So great to see the options that we've got. Gittins, again, a big season for him. Last season, we kind of forgave him. Like I said before, even if I see a few, like even a morsel of talent in you, I'll back you, man. If you play for my club, I'll back you to the hill until I find yourself, I cannot defend it anymore. With Gittins, there's something there, but there's also a few things that you're like, is this fixable? Is this coachable? Can we iron out those deficiencies. Remember, he's very young, man. He's uncapped for England, and Chelsea ended up paying north of 50 million quid for him. So there is a player there. He's got that 1v1 ability. He can really shoot the ball, as we saw against Wolves last season in the Carabao Cup. So there's a player in there, but it depends. Now, if Chelsea do end up playing with the back three, he's not going to be seeing too much minutes, but in the back four, where we're playing with the three in behind the striker, you can see him coming off that left-hand side. And of course, we've got that wild card as well, Mikhailo Mudryk. Now, that was a crazy, crazy saga. I don't know, man. I got a bit of a smile on my face when all his troubles were put in behind. Look, with Mikhailo Mudryk, right? This Chelsea signed him for, I'll give you the accurate fee, 62 million quid and all these add-ons. When you see the Sky Sports graphic or anybody else who wants to have that thing about Chelsea, yeah, Chelsea spent a lot of money, I get it, but Mikhailo Mudryk is not an 80 million pound player because he's come nowhere near getting towards those bonuses and add-ons, right? He's almost like Iqbali's kid that he went and recruited, put him on his private plane. He was all on his way to Arsenal, got him to Chelsea. The ability is crazy, man. The ability that he has got, both feet, is absolutely wild. He can strike. Just give me a second, guys. Whew. It's been a tiring stream, but a very engaging one. But that's the thing with Mikhailo Mudryk, we cannot loan him. Why? Now, even if it's to a newly promoted side who might end up getting game time, they are not going to have any patience with Mikhailo Mudryk, and Mudryk needs patience. He needs an arm around his shoulder, somebody to believe in him, and of course, somebody to keep an eye on his food and water, of course, after what he has suffered over the last 18 months or so. So keep him in-house. If need be, use him in the under-21s. Do not give him a foolish loan somewhere else because they're not going to take care of him. They're going to use him somewhere, somehow. Maybe he gets a bit of game time. But I believe under Xabi Alonso, if he's going to be a long-term manager, there's going to be a lot more value of him being in the squad, learning from the likes of Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, João Pedro, and everybody else around him who genuinely do care about him. That would be a lot more beneficial. Loan him off to a lower side, and it's going to be pointless, man. Trust me, I'm so convinced about it. We're going to have to be patient with him. He's going to give us the odd genius moment, but he's also going to frustrate the hell out of you. Whether or not he sees a lot of game time, again, it depends. Now, could he be a wing-back option for us? I know it's crazy to think about it, but why not, man? If you've got absolutely nothing in terms of left wing-back options, you need someone to really gun it down the left-hand side. Just put Mudryk there and tell him, defend. Don't worry about scoring and assisting. Run up and down that touchline. Be strong, be physical, get back into defensive positions and just be useful, man. So be useful for the squad is Mikhailo Mudryk. Get that attitude going. We know about his ability. Try and get those combinations. Keep training. Less time in the gym, more time on the training ground. And we'll see whether or not Mikhailo Mudryk can fulfill some of that potential. So that's pretty much Chelsea's squad. Like I said, I can go on for hours and hours about Chelsea's squad building and the squad options that we have for next season. I'm very interested to see how we do end up turning up because the first game of the season is Fulham away. It couldn't have been a more trickier game as the two ex-Real Madrid managers, Xabi Alonso and Alvaro Arbeloa, will go head-to-head next season. Well, Charles, I'm so sorry, man. I missed your comment. I mean, I was just in the floor. I was just gunning here, but you said, I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you so much for all the support that you have given me throughout the World Cup streams. I do remember you, bro. Of course you do. And the Premier League team I support? Chelsea. Till the wheels fall off, mate. And it looks like the wheels might end up falling off for Chelsea because of the 4 seasons under Blue Co, 2 of them have been bottom half finishes. That cannot be the case, man. We cannot be accustomed to it. But if we finish bottom half again, that's 3 out of 5. And that becomes the new reality, the new norm. Xabi Alonso, just like João Pedro, like everybody else, change our broke-ass lives. We need a bit of stability. We need these players to have a voice that they respect. I believe Xabi Alonso is that guy, man, because Xabi Alonso's playing career, immaculate, right? What a midfielder. Look, I'm Chelsea, and we had that crazy rivalry with Liverpool, right? All those Champions League games, the games at Anfield and stuff like that. I had a lot of disdain, and I still do, for that Liverpool side. But you cannot take away what Xabi Alonso was to them, a proper controller at that time. He went on to have the career that he had with Spain. Then he went to Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. He's worked under some of the best managers in world football. I mean, Rafa Benitez, Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, Carlo Ancelotti, Luis Aragonés, Vicente Del Bosque, and to say a few more. I mean, this guy has got a complete football education. So if it does not work out with Xabi Alonso, well, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, this was my first real experimentation with Monday Under the Sun. We covered the Arsenal versus City game. Who's going to really trouble Arsenal in terms of challengers? We saw the transfer window that all the other clubs have had and how they're shaped up to tackle the season coming up. They're going to be European actions. They're going to tune into Real Madrid a lot more because of Jose Mourinho coming back into the big time. There's so many different subplots. The Premier League campaign is kicking off in a few days' time. I cannot wait for it. Arsenal versus Coventry. We're going to be live for that. Chelsea versus Fulham. Of course, we're going to be live for that Monday Night Football. But thank you so much for whoever's tuned in for the first edition of Monday Under the Sun. This has been so much fun, man. There's no script. I'm not reading off Twitter. I'm just going off the handle because I just love football. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Karan, I really appreciate it, bro, for tuning in. I'm going to be back next Monday with this. I'm going to keep this as a permanent fixture. And of course, do tune in for the live streams, man. Thank you so much, Karan. Charles, I'll see you there, brother. I'll see you for the next game too, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers.